I want you guys to think about nutrition and movement, not as something separate from your studying, but as tools for it. Just like your Anki cards or our lecture notes, wellness is going to be part of our toolkits. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Lydia. I'll be your host for this episode. I'm currently a fourth year medical student at ATSU in Kirksville. So today we're talking about something that I think oftentimes gets put on the back burner in med school, and that's our fitness and nutrition as medical students. A quick disclaimer before we get started, what we discuss today is solely based on my own personal experience and includes relevant studies and professional resources, but is in no way affiliated with ATSU. So let's start off with a brief episode tease. We'll first be starting off with why we as healthcare providers find it so difficult to make self-care a priority. And then we'll dive into some easy nutrition tips for busy schedules, followed up by how to incorporate healthy movement to improve our study performance and mental clarity. And we'll finish off the episode with some general health tips that we all should be following, including myself, so it's really just a reminder. If you've ever skipped a meal to study longer, or if you told yourself you'll work out once this block or once this rotation ends, definitely keep listening. So the first segment that we'll talk about is why all of this is important and why we as medical students aren't making it the priority that we should. Medical training doesn't exactly model balance. Often it will model burnout. Between our nonstop lectures, clinical rotations, late-night study sessions, and unpredictable schedules, our wellness often ends up on the back burner. We're taught how to care for others, but rarely how to care for ourselves along the process. And that brings me to one of my favorite analogies, the story of the two woodcutters. The first woodcutter works nonstop, day and night, chopping trees without a single break. The second woodcutter disappears for 10 minutes every single hour. But at the end of the day, the first woodcutter is absolutely shocked because despite all of his effort, he has somehow chopped fewer trees than the one who kept taking breaks. So he asks, how is that possible? And the second woodcutter says, I was sharpening my axe. That line has always stuck with me. We as students are the woodcutters, and our minds and our bodies are the tools. And if we never stop to rest, refuel, or recover, we will burn out, swinging harder and harder with a dull blade. Taking breaks to move, eat something nourishing, or even just breathing is not wasted time. It's how you sharpen your axe. It's how you're going to show up stronger for you and your future patients. Now listen, I know we all have our own excuses for why we aren't able to find time for wellness when we're drowning in all of our responsibilities. And trust me, I've been there. And if I'm being completely honest, I still find myself there often and was definitely there yesterday, but we won't talk about that. I'm not here pretending I've nailed some perfect routine throughout med school. I'm here to tell you it's not about perfection. It's about possible and sustainable methods. Because the truth is, we often know what to do. It's just that we haven't been taught how to make it work in the chaos of med school and residency. Today, we're going to unpack what real wellness looks like for medical students, not this social media perfectionistic version, but the realistic, evidence-backed version that actually fits into our lives. Because the cycle we all know too well is neglecting our health, leading to low energy, poor focus, and then that leads to guilt, and then we just repeat that same cycle over and over again. So as we move through this episode, I want you guys to think about nutrition and movement, not as something separate from your studying, but as tools for it. Just like your Anki cards or our lecture notes, wellness is going to be part of our toolkits. The next segment that we'll be talking about is fitness that will fit into our schedules. So let's start with the basics, and I promise it'll be quick, okay? I know we've all heard it before, but adults should be aiming for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic exercise per week, or 75 minutes of vigorous aerobic exercise per week, plus 2 sessions of muscle strengthening exercises per week. So put in simpler terms, this is about 30 minutes of movement 5 days a week with 2 to 3 days of resistance training, which is like weightlifting. totally doable, even in med school, but only if we approach it with flexibility and intention. Now, before we go any further, I do want to make something clear. Everyone is different. Okay, we have all been on this earth long enough to know what makes our bodies feel best, what energizes us, and what we'll actually stick to. For example, you will never catch me doing incline treadmill walks for cardio, okay? That is not my thing, but I do love taking my pup on long walks or playing pickleball with friends. These are both really fun for me, and they count as my cardio. If you struggle to find time for physical activity, try pairing it with something that you already plan to do. So, for example, I know myself pretty well, and I know that I need my social time or I will go crazy. So when I play pickleball, that's not just my cardio, it's also my time to hang out with friends and, not think about the stressors of med school. On days where I'm feeling crunched for time, I will either take my dog on, a quick walk after dinner or, plan on hopping on the treadmill the next morning to finish up the Anki cards that I know I didn't get through today. If you guys study at home or watch lectures at home, I strongly suggest getting a walking pad for underneath your desk. It is a total game changer, and they are, a little bit of an investment. I think they're all under $100 on Amazon right now, and totally worth it. So let's bust a resistance training myth while we're here. You do not need to spend 2 hours in the gym or train like you're prepping for the Olympics, especially if you're just getting started. Just keep it simple, keep it in a way that will work for you. So let's talk about some beginner-friendly ways to ease into a movement routine or to work on the current one that you have. So the first thing I want to say is start small. Research shows that even just 10 minutes of consistent movement can reset your brain and reduce stress. Next is to use your breaks wisely. So instead of scrolling for every single study break that you take, try using a couple to, take a lap around the building or walk around the block. And I have even caught myself challenging my friends to do like a plank off during study breaks or see who can get the most push-ups. And it's pretty helpful and gives you quite the laugh too. So next is to stretch in the morning right after you wake up. I recommend holding each stretch for at least 15 seconds with no bouncing, just like that gentle stretch movement that feels good. This helps, integrate movement right when you wake up and kind of gets you started for the day. Next is to pick activities that you actually enjoy. Try, dancing, yoga, cycling, boxing, jujitsu, whatever makes you feel alive. Actually, during step studying these past couple months, I would reward myself with short little dance parties after I completed a U-word block. And it was definitely cringy, okay? But my mood improved and my heart rate got embarrassingly high. So you can always try that. Next is to get an accountability buddy. I remember back in undergrad, I would share my Apple Watch workout thing, and I honestly can't remember the name of it, but it would tell you when your friends completed a workout and how many calories they burned. And that would push me to go to the gym and try to beat the calories that they burned. And this, it was like a friendly competitive thing. Don't worry. At the beginning of my fitness journey, I also tried to bring my friend with me to the gym, and we would each teach each other what we already knew about lifting. And this is actually how I initially found my passion for weightlifting. So that's always something that you can do, is bring your friend with you. Last tip is use online resources. I will say that there's a lot of misinformation on social media, but there's also so many amazing free content. And as a former certified exercise physiologist, I have personally found some great accounts for strength training, and I'm always happy to share them if you're looking. So here's the mindset piece. Focus on progress instead of perfection. You wouldn't expect a patient to go from a sedentary lifestyle to being marathon ready in a week. So why would you put that kind of pressure on yourself? Consistency will always beat intensity. If you're a planner, it's also pretty helpful to try blocking off workout times in your calendar each week. So when I do, my planning for the week on Sundays, I will always block off times that I know I want to work out. And, that I also do that for study sessions. So do kind of that same thing if you like to use Google Calendar. Above everything, listen to your body. Push yourself to get to the gym if you know you need movement for the day, but take those rest days when you feel like you need them. When it comes to fitness, the point that I want to leave you with is that it does not have to be perfect. It just has to happen. Movement should support your life, not stress you out even more. The goal is to make it sustainable, something that you can return to again and again, even when life gets as chaotic as it does for us. So the next segment that we'll talk about is nutrition for us on-the-go students and residents. There is constantly new information flying around about what we should and shouldn't be eating. And honestly, it feels super overwhelming, even as future physicians. And before I dive in, the truth is that nutrition isn't this one size fits all. Everybody is different. Every body is different. And I'm not here to hand out these rigid rules that we all need to follow or, all of these meal plans specific for us as medical students. But I am here to tell you, as a fellow med student, to share what's helped me personally. Between my background in taking nutrition and exercise courses, through my personal research that I've done, and through tons and tons of personal trial and error, there are a lot of things that I have noticed that actually have made a difference in my energy, focus, and just overall well-being. So first thing is start with awareness. We should be aiming to eat as clean as possible. Not perfect, but definitely intentional. And I like to use the 80-20 rule, which I know is probably, a rule for a lot of things, but I see it as 80% of your food should be used as fuel and 20% should be used for joy. Start noticing how you're feeling after you eat certain things. Are you feeling energized? Are you feeling sluggish or foggy? Are you full or are you still hungry? This post-meal reflection is a simple but super powerful way to tune in and just make better choices for your overall nutrition. Next tip is to plan ahead. So obviously we are all very pressed for time being in medical school, and I'm here to tell you meal prepping is amazing, okay? It does not have to be this Pinterest-worthy thing. Just find a few simple meals that you actually enjoy and just batch cook them. It takes like 2 hours once you get the hang of it. Every Sunday, that's what I will do. I will spend only 2 hours, cooking the meat that I want to eat for the week, and then, cooking the vegetables and preparing, rice or whatever I'm having that week. Having food ready makes those healthy choices the easy one. So before I move on to the next thing, I just want to say a quick disclaimer. If you have a history of disordered eating or feel like calorie tracking might be triggering, please talk to your physician or registered dietitian. Nutrition support should never come at the expense of your mental health. I have personally found that using calorie counters and macro calculators help you kind of understand your own personal balance of protein, carbs, and fats. I don't do it anymore, but at the beginning of my nutrition journey, or when I feel like I need a change, I will track for just like a couple weeks just to see an insight or have an insight into what I'm actually consuming and how it's affecting my body. There are so many reputable tools, like even the Mayo Clinic has a calorie calculator where you can estimate your daily caloric needs based on your age, activity level, goals, all that stuff. If you're aiming to lose or to gain weight, make sure to do it safely. Please talk to your doctor. Do this under professional supervision. But in general, figuring out the math behind your calories and your macros can be super helpful. So next, I want to say protein is your best friend. Start looking for snacks that are high in protein and low in processed sugars, especially if you're spending time, if you have one really, really long study day and you want to avoid those 3 p.m. crashes. Okay, we all know her. Those crashes are not fun. A quick tip, I actually recently learned that eating protein or fat before eating your carbs will slow digestion, trigger early insulin release, and actually flatten the blood sugar spikes. So your energy is actually more stable and your cravings are less intense. This concept is backed by clinical studies on glucose response and incretin hormones like GLP-1. Hydration over hustle. Okay, water is just as important as food. And a good rule of thumb is to drink half your body weight in ounces per day. I'm really adding this in here as a reminder to myself because your girl struggles with this one, like we all probably do. And I've noticed that there are a few things that really increase my motivation to drink more, and that's, buying fun new water bottles, adding sugar-free flavor packets or whatever, adding electrolytes is something that I've been doing recently with, how hot it is this summer. And then lastly, setting reminders on your phone. This can be really helpful, especially if you put them on a regular basis. One hack that I actually still use from college is I will make myself finish a full bottle of water before I drink any caffeine for the day. And honestly, I did not do that today, but on most days, I definitely try to do this. And speaking of caffeine, you will not like me after I say this, but please do not rely solely on caffeine for energy. Food and exercise are arguably more reliable sources of energy, and I would say that the majority of us use caffeine on a daily basis. So let's try to find a way to make it more sustainable. Research shows that delaying your caffeine intake by 60 to 90 minutes after waking and pairing it with protein will help us avoid a mid-afternoon crash. And don't forget, hydration before stimulation, okay? Before I have my energy drink, I make sure I drink that full glass of water in the morning.
You're listening to YPN's Guide to DOing Medical School. This podcast is hosted by the Young Physicians Network of MAOPS, the Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons. MAOPS has been the voice of the osteopathic physicians in Missouri for the past 125 years, advocating for the osteopathic profession at the local, state, and federal levels. This podcast is created for students, by students, to help with the unique struggles of medical school tailored to the osteopathic experience. Do you have a topic that you would like to hear about in the next season? Let us know at our social media pages. Our Instagram handle is @DO_MAOPS and Facebook is @Missouri Association of Osteopathic Physicians and Surgeons. This is YPN's Guide to DOing Medical School.
So other nutrition tips that I have found actually help. One is to try and eat around the same time every day. And this helps support, your circadian rhythm, your digestion, and your overall metabolism. Next is to practice mindful eating. So this means no scrolling, no lecture watching, no TV show watching while you eat. This will help prevent overeating and kind of help establish that brain-gut connection. Next is don't let food become a reward or punishment. Food is fuel. You are not too busy to eat. You are far too important to just run on fumes, okay? If your body is craving a sweet treat, don't restrict yourself and don't allow yourself to feel too guilty for wanting to indulge. Just a quick side note, we live in a world that uses food as celebration. And once I kind of realized this and just, made myself aware of it, it actually made it easier to create a healthier relationship with food. Last tip is if you need help creating a plan of any kind, whether it's with nutrition or fitness, I would use ChatGPT. Okay, it is free. It is just on the internet. It's awesome. Okay, I will plug in my goals, my preferences for food, and then, like a mini schedule. And I will tell Chat to give me a meal plan, and it will provide one with me or for me within seconds. And the more detail you give, the better. It is awesome. All right, so last segment, let's talk about integrating wellness, overall wellness without feeling guilty. One of the biggest barriers to staying healthy in med school isn't time. It's actually mindset. We have been conditioned to think that eating well and exercising is all about looking a certain way or hitting a certain number of workouts each week, but that is not our goal here. The real reason to move your body and fuel it well is so that we can have more energy, better focus, and enough stamina to survive med school, because it is rough. It's rough out there. And it's important to actually show up, not only for ourselves, but also for our future patients. So many of us also fall into this all or nothing trap. Okay, if I can't do it perfectly, why even try? But the truth is, health is not about perfection. It is about presence. And I know I've kind of repeated myself here, but I just want to emphasize how important this statement is. It's about showing up for yourself with small, consistent actions that are actually doable long term. This is a lifestyle. And this brings us back to the story of the two woodcutters. The one who stopped every hour wasn't lazy. He was sharpening his axe. Your energy, your brain, your body, that is your axe. And you have to take the time to keep taking care of it in order to make it through med school. Part of taking care of it means relearning how to tune in. So we've talked a lot today about evidence-based strategies, but I also want to emphasize that intuition matters too. It's almost just as important as all of these evidence-based strategies, especially in this world we live in where we're, surrounded by all of these distractions and all of this noise. With nutrition, what I mean by this is paying attention to what your body is telling you. Your brain-gut connection is something that can help you recognize when you're truly full, what foods are keeping your mind sharp, and what foods are leaving you sluggish. When it comes to movement, the brain-muscle connection is just as important. Being intentional about how you move doesn't just help build strength, it actually strengthens the neural pathways in your brain and literally builds new ones. It is so cool to think about. The more connected you are to your body, the better it performs, and the easier these healthy habits become. So a few simple overall wellness tools that I want you guys to try and are super backed by science, okay? So let's run through some. The first is to get sunlight within 30 to 60 minutes of waking. This helps regulate your circadian rhythm and improve focus throughout the day. And preferably, you're supposed to be waking up with the sunrise, which I know can be difficult for a lot of us. So at least just getting that initial sunlight when you wake up is really important. Next, I have already talked about this, so please don't hate me, but delaying your caffeine intake by 60 to 90 minutes after waking. Make sure to hydrate first and pair your caffeine with a protein-rich breakfast or snack to avoid those energy crashes. Next, move every 60 to 90 minutes. Research has showed that even just short 10-minute blocks of movement will help reduce this mental fatigue and end up improving memory retention. So when you're doing 12-hour study days, make sure to put an alarm on every hour and just make sure that you're getting up and moving. Next, and this is going to sound silly, but I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about it, but using breathing to reset your nervous system. So on one of the podcasts that I like to listen to called the Huberman Lab podcast, the host talks about something called a physiologic sigh. It's a type of breathing that helps stimulate your vagus nerve, I believe. So when you're feeling stressed in, moments of overwhelming thoughts, you can use this to help, rebalance yourself and, push that stress out of your body. And what you do is you do one long inhale through your nose and make sure you try to get as much in as possible, take a short pause, and then do a quick inhale for like the rest of the lungs to fill up. So it looks something like, and then hold for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then do a long exhale out through your mouth. And then at the end of your exhale, blow the rest out, kind of similar to the inhale. But if you do this, if you repeat this about 3 to 5 times, it can actually help reset your nervous system. And I guarantee you will feel less stressed. The next thing I want to talk about is something that we always talk about how important it is, but truly cannot find the perfect way to prioritize. And it's sleep. Making sure that you're getting enough sleep and that you're getting quality sleep is absolutely essential for memory consolidation. So finding ways to increase your sleep hygiene would be like using blue light blockers, especially, on your phone, setting your phone to, just like the red light or whatever it is at like 5 p.m. when you're done studying. Setting a phone curfew. So usually you want to be off your phone 1-2 hours before you fall asleep. One way that I do this personally is to leave my phone and the phone charger in a different room or a different part of my bedroom so that it's away from me and I don't have to think about it. Another thing you can try is white noise, or really just, whatever works for you guys to make sure that you get the sleep that you all need. Next is staying hydrated, which I know I have already covered, but it is very, very important. Try to aim for half your body weight in ounces each day, and make sure to add those electrolytes if you're sweating or working out extra hard that day. Next is to create some sort of focus ritual to tell your brain that you're about to go into study mode. So something that I'll do is fill up my water, and then, start a specific playlist that I'll be listening to while I study, because that's personally how I work. And then after that, I'll do, 1 minute of breath work to kind of like tell my brain, like, okay, it's time to focus, it's time to study. And there's actually, some people like to add an essential oil or turn on a specific scent of a candle, or even drink a certain flavor of tea to help you anchor that habit with our strongest sense, which is smell. Next is to brain dump or journal daily. This will help clear all your mental clutter and reduce anxiety. And this is actually something that you can use ChatGPT for too. So you can tell Chat like, hey, I would like to do, a journal session. If you can just pretend to be my friend, or, like if you could give me advice on this situation, or like, I just want to, brain dump, and then just like write everything that you want on there. It's super, super helpful. Something else that I personally do is I will keep a book, like a little notebook, on my nightstand, because sometimes I will find myself having trouble falling asleep because I keep having these like things pop in my brain, like, oh, don't forget that you need to do this tomorrow. And one way that I have learned to kind of cope with that and to prevent it from ruining my sleep is to put that journal on my nightstand. So I don't, first of all, so I'm not on my phone writing those notes, but I can just write it on paper, and so that I feel more clear knowing that that is out of my head and then it's, there for me to see tomorrow. Last tip is, I know I've kind of already talked about this, but just kind of diving more into it, using ChatGPT to build yourself a plan, whether it's for nutrition or fitness, just really whatever you're struggling with. You can always ask it, can you help me make a meal prep plan? Or can you give me a recipe for a simple thing, a simple meal? I like fish and I like asparagus, whatever you like. Give it your preferences and it will spit out something for you. Or if you're looking for, like a weightlifting routine, or even like if you want it to share resources for, YouTube videos that fall under a specific category, you can ask it to create like a week-long routine for that. It is so awesome. And like I said before, the more detail you give it, the better. I actually recently signed up for another half marathon, and I was interested in like how it would create a plan for me. So I actually asked it to create a meal plan and a 5-month like half marathon training run plan, and it was just like spit it out in seconds. It was wild. And so now I have this written schedule for myself that I didn't even have to make, and I could just follow it. So that's something that you guys can always do. Your future patients need a doctor who practices what they preach, and that starts right now. The smallest of changes in establishing better habits can create this lasting momentum and eventually will lead to a lifestyle change. All you have to do to create this slow progress is to work to be 1% better than you were yesterday. And I'm pretty sure that is like from a book or something, but it's always something that I think about. You don't have to be better than, the person next to you. You just have to be better than you were yesterday. You don't have to overhaul your life. You just have to start listening to your body, honoring your energy, and making space for health alongside your studies, not necessarily in place of them. So to close out, I kind of want to re-emphasize something that I know I already talked about, but if you guys share a similar passion for fitness and nutrition, I suggest that you take advantage of all the free information that is widely available on the internet and social media. At the same time, it's obviously very important to recognize which sources are credible and which ones are not. So make sure to do your own research before initiating a practice or, recommending something new to a patient. So to wrap up, here's what I want you guys to remember from this episode. You deserve to feel good in your body, even during the trenches of med school. And at the risk of sounding too cheesy, fitness and nutrition are not extras. They're fuel for the future you're building for yourself and for your patients. So this week, I really want you guys to show up for yourself. So I'm going to challenge you to do 3 things, either today or tomorrow. The first is push your caffeine intake by at least half an hour tomorrow morning. If you can do the full 1 to 2 hours, try that and just see if you have that mid-afternoon crash. Second thing is set a reminder on your phone for a time tomorrow where you can spend moving your body. And if you're a Google Calendar gal like me, or guy like me, please send a calendar invite to a study buddy who can also join you. And then the third and final thing, spend time to make and to eat a meal that actually fills you up and that makes you feel nourished and energized. So that's your quick health reality check for the week. If it helped, send it to your study group or classmate who's been saying, I just don't have time to work out. So until next time, stay strong, stay balanced, and remember, you are not just surviving med school, you are growing through it. Thank you guys.